Hi, and welcome to Two Tired Teachers, coming at you from South Llano River State Park in the hill country of Texas. And this park is located about 7 miles south of Highway 10 at the city of Junction, Texas.
Sharon, what are your thoughts about South Llano River State Park?
This is a gorgeous park, and we were just talking about the fact we need to have low expectations. I don't know what I had thought, but this is absolutely a gorgeous area of the state, part of the state. We're in the hill country.
Yes, and the only times I had been to the hill country was on blind trips to Austin, and I was less than impressed. This is gorgeous.
It is, and we want to mention up front, it's South Llano River. It's not South Llano. So Llano, Texas is in a different, I'm thinking it's probably about at least an hour from here.
This is near Junction.
This is, yes, and I was going to say a huge advantage to this park is where we're sitting right now is less than 10 miles north of Interstate 10.
Yes.
And so, are we north of 10?
We're south of 10.
Sorry. Where we're sitting right now is less than 10 miles south of Highway 10. And so, even if you're not interested in a long trip here, if you're traveling across on 10, guys, this is gorgeous.
Yes. The river is one of the most pristine waterways in the state, according to the Texas Department of Wildlife and Parks.
It's clear. I'm going to say it has a green hue to it, but it's not like algae or fungus or something. It's just a aqua green kind of.
It is a spring-fed river.
And it's not as cold as you would think being spring-fed. But it's beautiful. And a lot of people, they do rent tubes. And they do mention it's a river, it's not a circles. But there are several places actually within the park boundaries that you can drop off tubes or canoes or kayaks and other places where you can take them out. And
supposedly there's a shuttle service that will run you back and forth. I'm not
in the park?
It's outside of the park where they rent kayaks and tubes. I'm not sure about that. I have not seen any of them here, but I haven't been.
And this is kind of a unique park in that it's relatively new. It is a ranch that was turned over to the state.
What happened was the rancher's son had tuberculosis, and he moved here because of the more arid conditions. The son died the following year, but the rancher stayed on. The house that holds the
park headquarters
is part of that. Is that Buck home?
Well, the last name was Buck, and there's a Buck Lake. But we want to mention the headquarters. You actually have to drive 1.5 miles into the park.
Yes, before you ever get to it.
And as you're on that road, the left half of the road is Texas State Parks, and the right half is private property. And there was a herd of elk, I am assuming.
No, not elk.
Antelope, yeah. We've gotten a few pictures of those, but
they're elusive and they're small.
But it's been really neat seeing those. But you pass one very popular day use area on your way to the park headquarters.
And they tell you in the day use area you're supposed to pay a fee if you stay there, but you do have to drive 1.5 miles to get to the headquarters.
Some awesome trails, and let me just go in and tell you, the dogs and I were walking this morning. I hope to, before we leave, I'm planning on taking a camera and getting some of these trails, but it's actually, they were old, I'm assuming ranch roads, and they still service areas out there using these roads, and so they're nice and wide, and turkey roost, yes. And it says authorized vehicles only, and I looked at that and I thought, okay, it doesn't say authorized personnel, it says vehicles. And so we walked one and went a long way around, and when I got to where it intersected another one, it says trail coming back that direction. So it's supposed to be a trail. But then there are also just some trails as well. And a lake,
Yes.
Buck Lake, and there's a little fishing pier down there. You have to go down one pretty good little hill to get to it. But it is beautiful.
It is beautiful. One of the things I've liked is the town of Junction.
I love the little town of Junction.
It's an old Texas town.
It's kind of a Mayberry feel. I mean, it
Yes.
really is. We drove down to the lake out of the park last night. I say last night. It was about 6:30.
Yes.
Everything in the town was shut. There was it was great.
That's nice to see.
And that area of the lake was, lots of families out using that. And we'll say that city park actually had a sign that says you can camp there for 3 days.
Yes.
There are no hookups there of any kind, but there were people in a tent, that were just using the city park. And so that was kind of cool. One of my favorite things was going to the fishery yesterday.
That was incredible.
That was so cool, just driving down the road and seeing the sign, and it's under the Texas park system, so our thought was, what's the worst thing they're going to say is get off our property.
I wish every worker could love his job as much as Dominic did. He was the man who showed us around. I don't think he graduated from Texas Tech that long ago.
Yeah, I think he's a recent Red Raider. Yeah.
He loves his job.
I tell you, I'm going to have to really chop that video, so I don't know how much of him you're going to hear. But he just loves those fish. And it was just so much fun to go and see how they're studying the fish here in Texas and what they're doing to provide.
His enthusiasm.
Yeah, he was just a lot of fun.
Yes.
And just the most polite, courteous young man, neat guy, and man, I tell you, the statement is true. When you love your job, it's not work. And
Yes.
to him, I'm sure there are parts of his job that are work, but
He said all along, this is my dream job.
and one of the buildings that we were in, and we were looking at, he's talking about all the cool stuff in that building, and he said, I worked here for a couple of months before I ever made a day without just coming in here to look. So it was so much fun to go and see, and just fascinating.
And fish that we're not necessarily familiar with. We knew there were gar and alligator gar in the state, but hadn't actually, we saw one.
We didn't know what it
We
was.
didn't know what it was.
It was, but a spotted gar. And so, anyway, that was just a lot of fun. We were literally driving from Kerrville back to Junction to our park, and we saw this is the Texas.
This is Texas Parks and Wildlife. This is the Heart of the Hills Research Facility.
And it's actually not a fishery. Well, it's not a place, a hatchery anymore. It was the oldest.
Yes, ma'am.
And this is Dominic, and he is our tour guide today. And so he's just showing us around. And if you enjoy fishing or you enjoy nature, this is just a super cool place to stop in. And this is not something they normally do, is give tours, I guess.
No, I mean, that's what we're here for. So if anybody stops by and wants to see it, we're more than happy to give a tour.
And so, yes, if you're visiting Texas, fishing here without a license is fine. If you're in a state park, you can do that
Yep.
on the bank.
Yep.
But if you live in Texas, guys, this is your when you buy a fishing license, this is your money at work.
Yes, ma'am.
It's right here, and we're seeing some awesome, cool stuff. So if you got to understand, it's Texas. I mean that Stonehenge too.
Yes, in Kerrville. That's about an hour away.
And let me just briefly say here, that is one of those things. When I was in 5th grade, I saw a video on Stonehenge, and it intrigued me. And I guess when we were in our early 20s, I was telling Mylene, I said, Gino, what's the name of that place? And I'm describing it to her and talking to her about the sundial and the rocks around the edges and the phases of the moon and all this other stuff. And she's like, that must have been some good video you saw.
Let me clarify that. There were not videos when she was in 5th grade. She
It was a
either
real
saw
National
slideshow
Geographic.
or a 16 millimeter.
But anyway, I had seen something about it, and so we get to Stonehenge too, and I'm looking for the rocks around the edges and all this other stuff. I didn't know. I thought maybe it was some scientist who had made a replica out there to... It wasn't. It was ranchers. Well, when I found that out, I quit looking for all the details, because for a couple of ranchers, it was darn good. But scientifically, not quite. But anyway, it's just been a lot of fun. This is a beautiful part of the state, and I am so glad we got here. And I'm actually glad we have at least one more trip this summer that's going to be in part of the hill country. And so now we have a lot higher expectations for that part.
That's right.
But anyway, like I said, if you're in this area, you even if you're not quite here, it's worth a trip over. But definitely.
If you're coming from any distance, make sure you have reservations. Last night was a Thursday night, and there were only 7 open campsites around 8:30.
And there are 58 or 59.
59, I think.
59 RV campsites. And there were people in the walk-in sites. And that's one other thing I want to say about this park is there are at least 2 RV sites that are ADA accessible. And there's at least 1 walk-in site that's ADA accessible. I mean, it had a paved walk up to the picnic table and around. So, really neat to see that.
It's a very friendly
And
park.
seeing them used by people that need that. And that is so neat to open those opportunities up. So anyway, yes, this park, when we got here, it was at least 3/4 full.
Yes.
And so you definitely need reservations if you're coming to this park. You want to check ahead and make sure.
Sure.
So anyway, it's a gorgeous park. We love it. And if we're down this way again, we will definitely stay here.
That's right.
Thanks for watching
Two Tired Teachers.